Good morning. I hope you're having a beautiful day. We are actually going to work on a nonfiction textbook today. We're going to identify information through pictures or illustrations and information in a text. Now, your success criteria, what you're going to be able to accomplish today is that you can use the pictures and the words in the text to retell about nonfiction information. So we're going to look into this. We're going to dig a little bit deeper into the success criteria. Basically, when you go and open up your book, you're going to use the pictures and the words to help you retell. Retell means you're going to tell it in your own words about nonfiction information. Now, can you tell me what nonfiction information is or nonfiction text? That's right. It's real information. It's not a pretend story. It's usually a story about facts about something. And so let me show you what we're going to be learning about in our text. We are actually going to be learning about the life cycle. Now you're like, the life cycle? What in the world is that? Well, it's the cycle of animals. Well, our animal that we have up here for an example is an animal of a chicken. And a lot of people say, what came first, the chicken or the egg? It's kind of a little joke, people have. But when you start here, you've got the adult chicken. The adult chicken lays the egg hatches, and then it turns into a baby chick. So that's a little example of what a life cycle is, the life cycle of an animal. All right. So we're going to be reading this book today called A Bee's Life, and it's a nonfiction text. And there are lots of new words here that you'll need to learn how to read. So let's just go ahead and review some of these words. Adult, that's what Miss Proctor is. That's what your mama and your papa are. A bee, it's an insect. You see it right here on the board, the picture of a bee. Buzzes, that's a sound word. It's what the sound that a bee makes. Changes, cycle, eggs, flower, hive, honey. That's what the bees make. Larva, and you will learn about what larva is when you start looking at the book, because our standard says that we can use pictures to help us identify information through words and pictures. Lays, life, nectar, pouch. Make sure the OU says ow, pouch, pupa, queen, stores, and sweet. Stores and sweet. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and we are going to look at this book that we are going to read today. We're going to go all the way back to the beginning, A Bee's Life. So this story is actually going to tell us about the life cycle of a bee. So let's get started reading. And if you notice, right here on this picture, there is a photograph of a bee, and there is a label right up here at the top, and it says Queen Bee. So let's read the first words. First, there is a queen bee. The queen runs the hive, kind of like your mama runs the house, and she makes sure you get to bed on time, and she makes sure you get your meals. She is running the house just like this queen bee runs her hive. She lays many eggs. What does that mean, she lays many eggs? Well, just like we looked at that picture of the chicken lays the eggs. Well, so does the bee. The bee lays the eggs. Now, if you look really, really close, you can see little tiny pieces of eggs there. It almost looks like a little tiny piece of rice. Let's read the text. Each egg is very small. Soon, each egg becomes, let's see if we can get that word up there, a larva. Let's read that word again. That's one of our words to know, larva. It almost to me looks like a worm. Doesn't it look like a worm to you? So we've got each egg is very small, almost as small as a piece of rice. Soon each egg becomes a larva. And this photograph, look at this photograph really closely. It actually shows the stages of the larva. So you've got the little tiny piece, the little tiny egg, and then it gradually grows up kind of like you do. You were a baby, then you were a toddler, and then you were a little boy or a little girl, and then you're just getting bigger and bigger, right? All right, so now look at this one. It actually shows a close-up picture of something called a pupa, a pupa. So let's read this. The larva changes into a pupa. Then the pupa opens. Well, do you know what a pupa is? That was just the baby bee. That's what the baby looked like before it actually opened up to a full-grown bee. All right, out comes an adult bee. Wow, look at that. Think about that picture we saw at the very beginning of the lesson where we saw the chicken and the chicken was in the egg and it hatched and then it became a little chick, right? It was in the egg. Well, this little bee, it grew up to be an adult bee. It buzzes, that's the sound it makes, from flower to get sweet nectar. Now you're like, what is nectar? Well, nectar is the sweet stuff in the flower that the bees use. So let's look at this picture. You see that right there? He's got something in his, he's got something in, he's holding. You see that? Let's read this. It stores the nectar in a pouch in its body. Wow, that's pretty neat. So it takes the nectar from that flower that he got, and he stores it, meaning almost like he puts it in a pocket, right? In a pocket of that he can store it up in his body. Let's read this part. Then it brings the nectar to its hive. Now, this is his beehive. This is actually a box that somebody's housing bees to make honey. And then up here, there is a photograph of another type of hive that the bees have made. And sometimes they make hives in trees too. Let's read this. The bees in the hive make the nectar into, does anybody know what that word is? That's right. That's honey. So you can see it. It's real shiny in this photograph. It's making it into honey. The bees eat the honey. So look at that. There's the comb. It's a comb, honeycomb, and in between it is the honey. Let's read this part. They feed their queen. What do you think they're feeding their queen? What did it just say they ate? That's right. It ate the honey. Then the queen lays more eggs. And it just starts all over again. Look at there. There's the cycle of the bee. So the cycle goes on and on. Now let's look at this again. So we've got the bee lays the egg that turns into the larva that actually changes into the pupa. That's basically like a baby bee. Then it hatches and it starts getting the nectar from the from the flower, and then it takes the nectar back to the hive to make what? Yummy, yummy honey. That's right. So let's read the words again. Bee, honey, larva, and pupa. Now what I want you to do is I want you to stop the video and I want you to go back through the story again by yourself and try reading the words by yourself and looking at the photographs again. I hope you have a great learning day, and I'll see you soon.